Perfect. All right.
So I'd like to go ahead and get started. And I want to start with Monica. Monica, we talk about digital marketing, and it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But specifically for you, what does digital marketing mean to you?
Well, I think it's really broad. I think, when I think 10, 15 years ago, when you talked about digital marketing, it was something that people had a bit of a concept around, maybe with search engine optimization and some targeted online advertising. And that's where it sort of stopped. We were happy with that. Now it's so many different things, and it can be email marketing, your digital marketing in the sense of social media, your search engine optimization, the targeted online advertising, such as Google ads, Bing ads, things of that nature. Everybody out there can do it to some degree, or claims to be able to do digital marketing to some degree. So I always like to kind of probe that a little bit and say, well, what does that really mean to you? What is your focus? It's almost like saying we do marketing. Well, there's lots of different ways to do marketing, and digital is, in my opinion, the biggest component of it in the age and day in which we live. I think it's a natural progression, and especially over the last year, we're even more saturated with digital marketing. Everybody's turning to that in a way to try to stand out. And I think it's becoming more and more challenging to do that, because that's where we think, our money is best spent. We can track our results and get a good answer to how we spend those valuable ad dollars. But really, digital marketing is broad. It could be, any one of those things: social, email, online advertising.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Actually, I want to ask you to sort of hone in a little bit and follow that up. What are some of the more important marketing channels that you would include in the digital advertising, or the digital marketing, I should say, the digital marketing umbrella?
Yeah, so again, I think it goes back to Monica's point. It's very dependent upon, what the goals are of our clients, because the channels are different, especially if it's B2B or B2C. But just to kind of expand, digital advertising, everything's important. The ads itself, programmatic, PPC, SEO, organic, social, and then paid Facebook and paid LinkedIn. That's very important based on your needs. Email marketing, web chats, even, blogs and virtual events. Those things are very important, especially now, because it's the only way to really, leverage those online channels to engage your audiences for a lot of these places that have limitations with physical location.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Monica, how can we use digital marketing to help tell our unique story? Like for the people that are on the webinar, the people that are listening and participating in the webinar, how could bankers use digital marketing to help tell their story?
Well, again, I think it is a little dependent upon, like Ashley said, it could, whether you're B2B or B2C, but I think the idea of storytelling in digital marketing, I always go back to this thing of content is king, right? We've heard that for years. And now more than ever, I think dynamic content is king. So in the form of video, it's like you can't even scroll through your Facebook news feed or your LinkedIn without seeing something moving, right? Everything's a video or a short clip of something, even if it's just a motion graphics video that's pretty simple. I think, it all ties back to that attention span of what our customers have, how they want to engage with us, and that's more and more popular, more and more accepted, the younger the generation that we're marketing to, especially. So I think it's the key is to be captivating with your storytelling approach to your content marketing strategy when it comes to digital marketing. And I know that's a lot of things kind of said all there in one, but at the end of the day, I think, I used to call it 10, 15 years ago, I would have said, I probably would have referred to it as like a testimonial sort of campaign around your business or your offering as a bank, as a community partner, whatever the case might be. And the idea there would have been maybe a print ad campaign, a direct mail campaign, maybe something digitally on social or website around getting the feedback from your clients to humanize you as a bank and make you more relatable. And now I think the concept of storytelling as a piece of that is the better way of describing a great approach to it. but it's challenging, and it is harder to stand out from the crowd, especially when you feel like, well, isn't everybody doing that? And how do I do it a little bit differently?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the key challenges, right? How do we differentiate ourselves from all of the noise? You talked about earlier about the attention span. It used to be quoted as 8 seconds. I don't think it's 8 seconds anymore. I think it's like 2.5.
Yeah.
Ashley, how do we help with storytelling? Do we offer narrative style of writing with content in the beginning, or do we take existing stories that are happening in the community and then craft content around that?
I think that's dependent upon the situation. Is the content currently available? Is it compelling? Does it reach the audience? Does it tell the story that you want to tell the audience? And if those answers are no, then we have to kind of go back to the drawing board and figure out, okay, what is our story? What do we want to tell? What's important for the audience to know and what resonates? And then it's crafting that around it. And, being able to leverage local communities and things going on in the area is always a strong benefit, because it really personalizes you as an organization and takes you down to that level with the consumer. But again, it's very dependent upon if it's there, if it's not. And even if it is there, can we make it better? Should we kind of rework based on the needs of the customer?
Okay, all right, very good. Before we switch gears and queue up another question, Erin, do you want to send out another poll for the group?
Absolutely. So I had some kids trying to get in. I'll get that up there. In the meantime, though, we would love to know for our guests what your current role is with your bank, and if you are working with a local regional bank or a more multi-regional or larger bank. So if you want to add that into the chat to me, that would be great. In the meantime, I'll also add this wonderful, fun question. Okay. So what does the circle at the very center of the Celtic cross represent? Here you go. There. All right, getting some questions, getting some answers in. All right. There we go. Okay, I'm going to end that and share those results.
Well, I'm really surprised no one guessed compounding interest. I thought that was going to be a tricky one, but apparently not. Apparently they figured me out.
It represents the sun.
Does indeed.
Awesome. Okay. All right, and joining us, we have a marketing manager with a local regional bank, and another marketing manager with a different local bank. So it's perfect.
So we're getting the right audience. We're getting marketing people talking to marketing people. We like that.
Yeah,
very
I love
exciting.
talking to like minds in that regard.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think as marketers, I think we all like to talk, and I think we all like to tell stories, and I think we all like to share in our own ways. Some people like to write, some people like to talk, some people like to dance. Everybody kind of has their own thing. And I think that comes back to a point that Monica made earlier, is we like to humanize things. And I've always appreciated community banking in that regard, because it is about the environment that the banks serve and the people that they serve. And it seems they have a unique way, I think, and they have a unique message. It's really easy to sell a community bank story, as opposed to, there's other industries that are not as well thought of by the greater good or by the public. So I think community banking has that advantage. Now, advantages and disadvantages, right? Monica, why is digital marketing more important today than maybe, like you mentioned, 10, 15 years ago?
Well, again, I think it's just a natural progression of who we are as a society. We're seeing with each generation, the expectation of immediate gratification for whatever we're looking for. We don't expect to have to research something that far to find the information we're looking for. We don't watch commercials anymore, right? My kids are like, what is this? Like when one of them comes on and they're highly annoyed by it. And I'm like, you're talking to someone in marketing and you're talking negatively about commercials. Like, I don't appreciate that.
Right.
But at the same time, I get where they're coming from, right? It's that little moment to where I go, geez, okay, wow, this audience is not, these younger generations are not accepting of that. So again, that's where it comes back to really being, it's tough. It's becoming tougher and tougher, in my opinion, to stand out effectively. And I always try to take a customer back, a client from a marketing level back to, let's start with defining your vision and what your mission is as a community bank or a partner, personal lines, commercial lines, whatever it might be. What equals success to you? And I think if you can define those kinds of things to your marketing team and or those working with you on a marketing level, then I think what you put out there in the sense of content and storytelling and how those pieces come together happens so much easier than if you can't tell me what your vision is and what your mission is. How am I supposed to market for you, right? And I feel like in marketing and some of these, the marketing managers that I know we have on with us today probably are like, yeah, right. Like I would love for leadership to be able to kind of give me a firm answer sometimes or a clear direction and not be going like this, depending upon who I talk to and what their problem is that day. And we see that all the time. It's not uncommon. I don't think you're in the minority, but it's more important than ever to be unique. I don't think that means we have to be posting constantly. We have to be in your face. At some point, you fatigue your audience with that and you start to turn people off. But I think, again, come back to the big picture of what is my message? What am I trying to get across? And how do I align our bank with people we want to do business with? And what we put out there is what we're going to get back. And that helps you craft your stories. It helps you find those individuals within your banking community where you go, this would be the perfect person to speak to this, in a quick video or, a testimonial campaign around social media or whatever the case might be that kind of tells this story for us. We don't sound salesy. We don't sound like we're just trying to make a deal and get in front of you. We just sound human. We sound like the people we do business with. And I think that's key.
Ashley, do you think that the pandemic has affected how important digital marketing is for banks today?
Absolutely. Businesses took a huge financial hit when this pandemic in almost every industry, and that hurts, individual verticals as well as the banking industry. So, across the board, one of the first budgets that got cut were marketing budgets because it's the easiest way to pull back dollars. So shifting to digital marketing, it really helps because you can reach and engage the same audience and a broader audience, and it's at a lower cost. Digital strategies you can get a lot cheaper than direct mail and big outdoor media buys. So you're also able to reach that audience segmentation. So it's not just one message. You can really, create those subgroups of audiences and have different messages to different audiences and have that one-on-one experience with them. It's easy to measure and adjust. So, what your ROI is because you can track everything from end to end. And that's extremely important because you can shift those very precious low marketing dollars to optimize accordingly. And then just also, staying top of mind and engagement because everything shut down. A lot of places still aren't allowing people in or at a lower, customer number per store location. And there's still a lot of people out there that don't want to go to in-branch location. They want to go online now because they still have that fear, coming from that pandemic. So it's so much easier to tell that digital story and engage with them on there and chat with them, through the website or social media or blogs. And then also that engagement with the mobile apps. It's huge and it saves a lot of money. And quite frankly, it helps the branches too, because they can cut costs there as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think we've always been taught that we need to reach customer where they are. And years ago, that meant advertising within the branch and billboard advertising and advertising in local papers or business publications or even public radio. Well, now people are on Spotify and Pandora, so we have to advertise there. People are searching online, so we have to advertise there. But most importantly, you can't see this, but it's my mobile phone. People are on their phones constantly, so we have to advertise on the phone. Does that mean we're going to get into aggressive text messaging campaigns? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on your audience and depends on the outcome, but it definitely means we want to advertise mobile and we want to advertise online, and we want to help with bringing the digital tools that banks are using and investing in and establishing as part of their arsenal. We want to promote those things. Again, talking about the softer side or the human side or the storytelling way, generating attention around the new tools that banks are using to spread the message and tell their story. Within the same context, let me bounce back to Ashley again. Ashley, how do we know if it's working? You talked about ROI, improving ROI. Does the technology make it easier for us to determine if it's working?
Absolutely. So digital marketing, it's one of the easiest forms of marketing to track. And you can track back ROI directly per channel online. So there's so much more insight on performance than you can get on direct mail or traditional media, because with that, you really, you have to fine tune. It's, sometimes you're at the mercy of your sales rep tracking that back for you. So, with Google Analytics and real-time reporting dashboards, the click to call phone numbers, you can shift and pivot as needed, and it can be done in real time. You don't have to wait for people to mail things back or to go in branch and scan codes and use promo codes to track all of that back. So pending what your call to action is, you can see if you drove a lead, if you drove a conversion, where you're losing them in the process. You can actually see through Google Analytics where on your page you're losing them, and maybe it's your web face or your website interface that you need to adjust to make it easier for that conversion. So again, it's so easy to track, and it's really worth having something like a real-time dashboard to help do that. And you can today, and that's the beauty of digital marketing. So.
Okay, very good. And Monica, what are some of the tools that you and your team use to display that information or to share that information with your clients?
Yeah, so and kind of piggybacking off of what Ashley was just talking about, attribution is key in understanding really how your ad dollars are working. And I wholeheartedly agree that when it comes to digital marketing, the tracking ability you can't compare it, to a billboard ad, a print campaign. It's really hard to, even on radio, in the sense, not digital radio, but on air in a traditional sense, it's hard to really track that. You have to look at it as more of like a branding campaign, and you see an increase in business from it, but you can't be too direct about it. What I find a little frustrating though is I think if you're not a marketing department within your bank, or if you don't have a partner like a WebbMason working with you to distill the depth of information that you can get from these tracking resources, it almost becomes overwhelming. And so people go, yeah, that's great. I can track stuff. I can track it all day long. But at the end of the day, I kind of need that bird's eye view. Tell me, distill the important information for me. We use Google Analytics. Obviously, that's tied into just about everything. We use a lot of Google Tag Manager as well. And when Ashley was speaking to kind of understanding where people are exiting your website, so we understand where did we lose them specifically throughout the UX, throughout the user experience. That tool in particular really helps us understand why they left, where exactly they were doing at that moment, and where they actually bounced to. So you don't just get that incoming information to your website from a referral standpoint, you get more of an exit information as to where did they go after this. The other piece that we use a lot is heat mapping tools like Hotjar, something like that, to understand from a user experience perspective. So many of the digital failures that we feel like we kind of help to right in some way, shape, or form is oftentimes due to the structure or the user experience setup of your website and your messaging therein. And that's where you lose people, you lose their interest, you've not made it easy for them. Google ultimately, at the end of the day, they want to return to their user base, the people that are querying things and searching things to come up with you, hopefully. They want to return them to the exact page that they think that user can get the best information in the quickest way possible, because Google understands and Bing understands that's how people operate, right? It's not going to take much before they bounce off and we've got a 2-second page look and then we back out and we're searching for something else. So the idea of optimizing people to the homepage these days is not really even a thing anymore. It used to be that's where we put everything. That's where we wanted like the beauty shot to sort of be associated with our brand and who we are. And the reality is it's in the content, it's in the depths of what it is you're talking about. So I think the reporting pieces like Google Analytics, Hotjar, those kinds of things, Google Webmaster Tools, the Google Tag Manager, we use specialized reporting software that we've highly customized to distill pieces from all of those aspects. SEO Moz is another one that we tie in from to really understand and give our clients like maybe a 2-pager on high level. You don't have to get into the numbers. That's frankly our job as your marketing partner to understand that and adjust accordingly, but be able to distill it for you in the easiest way possible.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We talk a lot, and you and I have talked about this too, it's that consultation, right? We need to work with our clients, and I think you work very similar. We want to be transparent and show what we know. We want to admit when something we tried didn't work. We want to project how things could impact things in the future, but ultimately we're working with them. We're not just unloading a bunch of spreadsheets or a bunch of data or even a really pretty dashboard and saying, here, good luck. You tell us. We want to lead, right? We want to help with strategy in the beginning, and we want to help drive the results they're looking for. And to Ashley's point, it's okay if that changes mid-campaign or mid-meeting. We could change our mind during a follow-up meeting. Yep.
Yeah.
Great. Erin, I'm going to come back to you and ask to have a little bit more fun before we ask another serious content question.
Great. So and everybody has their favorites, but wanted to know what your favorite social platform is to promote your bank. I know, each of us has our own personal favorite, that is our main go-to, and it's always interesting to see what, from a business standpoint, what those are as well, especially in the B2C conversation.
Yeah, and Monica,
Facebook,
while people are chiming in, Monica, what do you guys use to promote your own firm? Like from a social media perspective, what channels or what platforms do you guys use?
We use a fair amount of LinkedIn because obviously we're a B2B organization. We're serving other organizations, not an end user within one of those organizations, but LinkedIn is a powerful tool from that perspective. We also market relatively heavily on Facebook and Instagram. And anybody knows Instagram's highly visual, right? It's a fantastic tool, but they all have their pros and cons. We use Pinterest. We take advantage of all of the social platforms, but I think from the B2B perspective, we can target very nicely, and we can, if we're looking at spending like an external budget with more of a directed campaign, I think LinkedIn is the right approach for us. But I always try to tell, our customers, we're believers in that your social media, it is your social media, you've got a bit of a captive audience there, but at the end of the day, your website is truly where we're going to get the 100% captive audience that we want. We're not competing with anybody. They're not seeing ads for anything else in the sidebar of their Facebook page or their LinkedIn page when they're on your website. So ultimately, we want to see those as good referrers to your website and see those come in pretty high on those reports that we're running all the time of saying, okay, the content that we're putting out there is ultimately pushing them to a bit of a funnel on that we can better control when we get the client or the customer to your website. And that, again, that's where you've got them. And then the question becomes, how do we maintain that and make a quick conversion out of it versus seeing them bounce off and go somewhere else?
Okay. Yeah, and I know that I don't want to speak for Aaron and for Ashley, but we use LinkedIn to promote WebbMason Marketing, but we work with clients depending on where their audience is. And I think you're right. I think it's important to take advantage of the pros and cons of each channel and knowing that there are going to be some limitations. Aaron, what was the most popular answer?
Facebook was the most popular answer, with LinkedIn being second.
Yeah, makes sense of, on B2C, the community bankers. Do we want to throw up a poll question, the multiple choice question?
Yeah. Have some more holiday fun.
Yeah.
The third one. Which traditional music instrument was adopted as the logo by Guinness?
Okay, so this is interesting.
All right.
We're not all craft beer drinkers, or we're not all stout beer drinkers. We have a split audience here. Now, Ashley, what would you vote for?
For the Guinness logo, the harp.
Harp. And then bagpipes is most popular. Monica, what would you vote for?
I would say harp.
All right, well, it is absolutely harp. So I understand not everybody drinks Guinness, and I understand bagpipes were an obvious throw. Gong, I thought, was creative too, but nobody voted for gong. So yes, it's the harp, and it is known. I don't know that there's so many trivia questions about all the stats about how much people drink Guinness on this day. I didn't think it was appropriate to announce the staggering numbers, but anyway. So congratulations to the two people that voted for harp. You win a prize. You will also get a WebbMason hat. So that's awesome. Let's give some things that people can take home with them. So help me understand. Let's start with Ashley this time. Help me understand one or two things that we can recommend to community banks to get started using digital marketing. Where should they begin?
I think they should begin with just an audit of what they're currently doing. See if you're online, if you do that Google search on yourself and see if you come up organically, see if you come up with any paid advertisement, and then also just take note to what competitors come up on that paid advertisement, because if they're coming up above you or they're being featured organically, that's just number one low-hanging fruit that you're already missing out on. And the number two, I think, is just understanding their customer and where they can go with their digital marketing. Either if you have that internal marketing team, or if you want to consult with an agency on what you should be doing or what they think you should be doing. I think it's definitely important to know what channels you should be on, because you, again, could just really be missing out on, some of that low-hanging fruit and where you should be in the market to be in front of the audience.
Great. And Monica, I want to ask you a slightly different question, because I think actually that was a really good place for people to start. I love the suggestion about the audit. I think too many times in my professional career, I jump past that. Like, oh, they've already done that. They've already done the audit. They already know everything that's happening. And we really should ask that question as a starting point, because maybe people haven't. Monica, help us understand some of the best ways to manage digital marketing. And I'll frame it in the context of not every community bank has a 7 or 8 or 10 person marketing department. Some community banks don't have a marketing department. So can you give us some suggestions or some of the ways that they could manage this?
Yeah, and it kind of touches on a little bit of what Aaron was saying there from that audit perspective. Another thing that I think might be a good place to start and get your head around how you can manage it is actually doing a bit of a poll with your existing customer base. Understand why they're with you. Why do they work with you now? Did it come from a community connection that maybe you already have? Maybe some of your business bankers already have, and that's how that just kind of naturally comes to you in a beautiful way? Or was it through something that they saw? Was it word of mouth? Was it reputation? It's really interesting to learn why people select you to begin with. And sometimes we overlook that, I think. But if you have a better understanding of what your current base of customers, the why behind them doing business with you exists, I think it helps you get your head around how you can better manage moving forward. So that could be done in the form of, kind of this older school approach that I still like is a survey. I mean, the response rate for surveys is relatively low, but depending upon the pool of people you're sending it out to and the volume of people you're sending it out to, getting a 2% return on that is okay. That's okay. That's a good cross section to still really understand, okay, these 15 people said that, 25 people said that, and it's really skewing in this direction. The likelihood is that if 10 times that amount of people did respond, they would probably be saying the same thing. You can start to make decisions around that and then better prioritize your approach. I think working with an agency like WebbMason, like us, that's a great, I mean, obviously it serves us well to say that, but I'll tell you all day long, where we shine the best for our clients, and I would assume you guys would probably agree here on screen with me, that we work best when we have a marketing partner internally. So I'm not looking to work with a business that has 8 or 10 people in a marketing department and sort of has that figured out. Where we really bring a unique approach and a different way of thinking, kind of almost outside looking in at the onset of a relationship, is when we've got a marketing mindset already internally within an organization that can speak our language, understand the value behind the reporting that we're providing. And that's not necessarily direct leadership or the CEO or the owner or the main shareholders within your organization. That's these marketing people that go, yeah, I need it and I can get my mind around it, but I can't execute on all of this stuff. I need some help in doing it. And so I think a group like WebbMason can come in and then help fill those gaps. If you can have an honest conversation to understand, well, where do you need the most help? And if we can help identify for you through an audit or through a bit of a survey, then it really becomes achievable. And you're not overwhelmed with going, okay, how do I get it all done and overnight? You don't. We take smart steps to get there.
Yeah, and I'd like to kind of combine both those two answers. If we can get our arms around what's currently being done in an audit, and we can talk to other people within the organization that may have marketing needs or a marketing mindset. Is there a business development team within the bank? Is human resources, are they doing outreach? Are they doing promotion? Are they doing branding? Is leadership the only group of people that are doing brand awareness or brand expansion or brand refresh? Who else within the organization? A lot of times we have relationships where there's different databases for different departments and they're completely siloed. One of the things we can do with something like an audit is to take those different silos and bring them together. And that helps us give a much better view of the customers and prospective customers for the banks. So I think it's important to bring both those answers together for community bankers. Great job there, you guys. What about additional resources to help with education? For example, on the last webinar, we had ICBA, which is the parent association that represents community bankers in Capitol Hill. What other resources are available in addition to partnerships with marketing firms or marketing companies or marketing agencies or even really good partners at the bank? Where else can bankers turn to for education? We'll start with Ashley on that one.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of resources out there. For me personally, I like to do just a simple Google search and figure out, what I love, kind of stalking competitors of our clients and seeing what they're doing. So that's kind of where I like to start and just kind of figuring out what are they doing? What are they doing differently? How are they in the market right now and talking to their customers? And, also there's so many things out there that you can download and view that are just industry specific. Look up those benchmarks and see where, the average is and where you should be and educate yourself that way first before reaching out and realizing, okay, we need to actually improve something here. So we do need now to go to the next step, like a partner and so on. Also internally, if you have resources internally, like marketing people who are better inept with the market and the competitors, go there too. they'll know what to tell you about different things and different standards and where they think you should be, and maybe even be able to kind of collaborate on some of the limitations of why those channels haven't been executed.
Okay. And then Monica, if they don't have in-house resources to help them with marketing, what are some of the questions that you would want your clients or your potential clients to ask you? What are some of the things that community bankers can judge marketing firms or other marketing companies on?
I mean, I think a lot of times, more often than not, I feel like there's the desire to understand, well, who have you done this sort of work for similarly? I'm interested in case study sorts of examples to better understand what the challenge was, your solution, and what the ultimate success was that came from whatever relationship. In our organization, we've got a pretty wide array of industry types that we can show case study examples of, and that's just how we're structured. It's, we're not necessarily just within a banking vertical, but at the end of the day too, I think that tapping your own networks is so much more valuable than people give it credit for. So earlier today, I actually made a LinkedIn post. If you catch me on LinkedIn, if you connect with me on LinkedIn, you'll see this post I made. There is a resource that we use, a subject matter expert, I would call her for lack of a better term, that is so highly focused on LinkedIn marketing for your business, B2B or B2C. She's amazing at it. And so I made this connection with her years ago through, personal contacts like a Jay, in and around my community, and got to know her. And then all of a sudden I found I could think of 5 customers off the top of my head. And I went, they need this woman. They need this. They need the help from this woman. So we bring her in as a resource and we help manage that relationship. But at the end of the day, we don't try to sit in the middle of it. We were sending our staff to the training sessions that she was putting on for our clients that I think we were calling it like LinkedIn 101. And then we had different level classes that she was staging for this organization that at higher levels. And we were sending our own people to it and going, hey, we're getting something from this. And this was just through me thinking a little bit bigger picture around who in my personal network, we're a great agency, but we don't know it all. We're learning all the time. Our people are constantly going through training and learning and better understanding. And in digital marketing, it changes constantly. So I would say, I think a great resource is looking around you and say, who may have some good ideas here? Maybe it's talking to some of those groups that you just pointed out, Jay, internally, to say hey, this is a person that could maybe bring some value here. And you're not looking at retaining a whole agency to accomplish something, but you're finding, specifics with subject matter experts that could bring a little more to the table.
That's great. Thank you for that. I think those are all really good ideas. We're coming up against time. I really try to end by 10 of the hour or 5 of the hour at the latest. So Erin, let's throw out one more poll question, and then I want to ask the panelists to sort of wrap it up. Okay.
In the city of Chicago, since 1962, the Plumbers Union dyes what Kelly green? So it's a fun one. This morning I dyed my kids' milk green. I thought it was fun.
Nice.
Oh, lots of different answers. Give it one more minute.
Any guesses, Monica?
I think it's got to be the river. I mean, it just makes sense, but I feel like there a couple of years ago, I saw an article and saw the pictures of that happening, where they were talking about the eco-friendly way that they do this in the river. So it would go back to its normal state within a few days, and we're not destroying the ecosystem.
Yeah. So the river is correct, and I was reading last night online that they've been worried about the ecosystem and the dyes in the river since 1962. So it's not just a new problem. They've been thinking about it since the very beginning. And then I think in 70, they changed over, maybe 68, they changed over to a vegetable-based dye, again, for the betterment of the environment. And so it's not like the save the planet and being health conscious and being environmentally friendly and being green is a new concept. Literally being green. I wish I would have set that up as a better joke, Aaron. Darn it. Next year on St. Patrick's Day, I'm going to set up being green. It's a much better joke. Well, before we let people go, if you answered the river, you will be getting, you can see that, WebbMason insulated thermos or coffee cup. And I'd like to get everyone's last thought. And, you know, if there's only one thing that people are going to walk away from our webinar today, what's that one takeaway? And Aaron, you've been so great at monitoring everything and keeping things running smoothly. What resonated with you that maybe Ashley or Monica volunteered during the conversation? What's one thing that you'll take away from today?
I like the fact that of talking about taking a look back and just kind of putting everything out and see where you are currently. Sometimes we don't always get the chance to do that. We're always just running and doing the next thing, and just really having that time to step back and look at it holistically and then figure out the best way to move forward from there. It's always a nice refresh.
Okay. Ashley, how about you?
Again, I think it's just understanding where you are. You know, are you marketing digitally? What channels are you using right now? You know, is it working? Do you have the metrics? And if all of those answers are no, or you're not sure, and the answers aren't internal, I think it's important to get out there, because it really is the strongest form of marketing right now to reach your audience. So just understanding that and making sure that you're out there is.
Okay. Monica, one takeaway from today?
I think don't try to do it all at once. I think people get overwhelmed, you know, especially if you feel like you haven't been doing a good job on the digital marketing front for a period of time. You start to kind of go, okay, I don't even know where to get started. And you don't have, it doesn't have to be solved overnight. It doesn't mean that you can't take a rapid approach to bettering your positioning online. But if you do take that step back and make sure that whatever you're choosing to do aligns with your mission and your vision as an organization, and you have leadership support behind that, I think you're only going to go good places, and you can take small achievable steps to get there in the right way.
Great. That's super powerful. I was really excited to hear that dynamic content is king, because I thought data was king, and I think data used to be king. I think dynamic content is now king, so I'm going to change my stance on that. And I agree with everybody else. I think doing a little house cleaning and taking an audit and making sure you know exactly where you are. I think everybody's using digital marketing to some degree, and I think some people are more comfortable with it than others. And the four of us want community bankers to be comfortable with it and use it as part of their marketing toolbox, if you will. So that's our time. Thank you very much for everybody that participated. Thank you to Monica. Thank you to Ashley. Thank you to Aaron. And thank you for everybody that watched at home.
Yeah,
we'll see you guys next month.
Thanks, bye.
Thanks, everybody.